Hey everyone, welcome to Weirdest News in History with me, Ben Chasteen, or Weirder News Wednesday, where you'll hear strange news pieces from any time period. And tonight I'll be talking about number 5. A Maine school celebrated the 43rd anniversary of a Twinkie that had been on display at the school ever since first being unwrapped. And number 4, after a man gave out all the Halloween candy he bought, he had to figure out what else he had that he could give the kids. What he then handed out to them landed him in jail. And number 3, an entire Dutch town was taken back when police uncovered people who've been secretly residing in a secluded basement for nearly 10 years, unnoticed. Their reason for being there was even stranger. And number 2, a man described his personal terrifying encounter with the mysterious and dangerous cryptid, the Dogman. And number 1, ever heard of the miracle of the sun? Thousands of people in Portugal witnessed the sun dancing in the sky in a kind of a zigzag fashion. What made it a bigger miracle was that three children had prophesied that a miracle would occur on that exact day. So, want to hear all these? Join me again, Ben Chasteen, for the weirdest news in history. Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I hope you're all doing really well. Let's just jump right into this with number 5. How about that? Twinkies. There's that age-old myth that Twinkies last forever, where I think this is kind of where it stemmed from. One teacher, so get this, in 1976, he decided to test the theory, and now more than 43 years, now it's probably going on about 45, 46. I think this happened a few years back, maybe in 2019. But kind of proved the myth to be true in a weird way. You can play this, Lindsay, if you want.
A science experiment at a school in Maine has lasted 43 years and counting.
The Twinkie was purchased in 1976 as part of a discussion about food preservatives. It has been sitting undisturbed in a classroom all this time. It's generally the same size and shape, but has turned from gold to gray, and its texture gotten a bit rough there. For the record, a spokesman for Hostess says the modern day Twinkie has a shelf life of 65 days.
Still seems like a long time for a baked good. 65 days.
65 days. I would agree with that.
I mean, they are delicious. That's true.
Over 2 months. Anyway, so funny. The goal was to really kind of find out how long the Twinkie would last, and also show how preservatives affect food, like in a negative way. This is like this unhealthy stuff. And by the way, all these preservatives stem from petroleum. I found out almost everything does. So, let's see. So their teacher, Roger Benetti, he opened it up in the middle of the class and was like, we'll just put it here. And for 43 years, it stayed there until he retired. And now there's an ex-student of his that took the shift over in watching the Twinkie. So he's actually the assistant head of the school now, this ex-teacher or ex-student of his. And it's part of their school in Maine and something that people actually come to go see. So if you fast forward a little bit in the video, it shows the teacher before he retired. But I think he said something like, yeah, it's kind of coming like me, older and grayer. But super weird. I don't know. But this is why I don't like to eat Twinkies. That's why can this even be considered food? I don't even know.
Looks like a loofah.
It does. Or a sponge. Yeah, is that like the sponge thing, right? So, I don't know. There was another Twinkie that was found that was like 8 years ago, but it was still in the package, and it was just like completely molded. So I don't know the difference. I mean, this is from the 70s, so I'm kind of curious to see what they were putting in Twinkies back then. You never know. All right, let's move on. to number 4. Would you? Yeah. So someone's. Oh well, they did this with. Yeah, someone mentioned Big Macs. They do that with Big Macs too, and fries and everything else. So yeah, I mean, people have been finding French fries and hamburgers and stuff. Old hamburgers and French fries that don't have mold on them. So I don't know. That's why I'm a little skeptical eating fast food. All right, number 4. This man was accused of handing out. Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't we just jump right into this? You know, Halloween's supposed to be scary, but for the events that unfolded in this suburban town of South Chicago Heights, it went far beyond just ghouls and ghosts when 25-year-old Jared Feline, I think his name is, when trick-or-treat offerings took a very unexpected turn. So Jared was passing out his candy to all of the, Batman, Supermans, Wolverines, ghosts, vampires, witches, all of that, and everything under the moon instead of the sun in this case. I threw that in there. When all of a sudden he realized he was running out of candy. He went through his home to find something else he could give out. That's when he decided to hand out his personal stash of weed-infused gummies. So I don't know what made him think this was a good idea, but maybe he was just eating too many gummies and was like, hey, I should give these out as candy. So, yeah. Parents ever vigilant sniffed out, there he is right there, sniffed out the deception when their little ninjas and princesses came back with not just candy, but also baggies of yellow gummies. I don't know if they were gummy bears. It didn't directly say, but they could have been gummy bears. And they noticed it had a very distinct aroma to them. So the alert was raised faster than you can say trick or treat, and soon the police were involved. The local police, not quite ready to accept this new form of Halloween hospitality, I would say, charged Jared with 5 counts of child endangerment. I mean, it could have been way more than that if he gave it to like a lot more children. So it's kind of weird. The gummies were whisked away to a crime lab to be tested. Parents were advised to comb through their kids' loot with the diligence of the customs officers looking for contraband or something like that, and especially to seek medical advice if any child decided to sample Jared's special edition gummies there. I would say in this case, Jared probably emphasized more the trick part in Trick or Treat. Probably not a good idea, since the only thing scarier than the costumes was the thought of what could have happened if. I mean, can you imagine if like a child just thinking they were gummy bears, just put a whole bunch of them Oh, probably not very fun for a kid. I hope Jared learned a valuable lesson here, though, such as that when you run out of candy, probably better just turn off your lights of your house. Oh, I can't even imagine that. Like, what would make him think that was such a like? Yeah, I'll just give out weed infused gummies here. Like, I really can't even understand that. Luckily, no. I probably like there. By the time he was giving it out, I imagine that one parent was probably like, "Okay, these are weird gummy bears in like a homemade plastic bag. Like, what's going on here?" So I imagine that's probably what happened, and they probably alerted the police right away. So that's nuts, though. I was trying to see if there was a story of like a kid taking one or something, but I didn't see any, so can't even imagine that. All
I
right.
remember being a kid and having to have my parents look through my candy to make sure there weren't hidden razor blades or things like
I
that, and
know.
I'd be like, "Gosh, mom, there's nothing in there. There's not gonna be anything." And then guys like this come along, makes it all happen.
I know. Yeah, I remember like being a little kid too, say, and they were like, you'd hear on the news, like, oh, don't, be careful, don't eat anything that's not out of a wrapper and blah, blah, blah. Or like, yeah, like you said, razor blades or something weird. And I'm like, dude, no one's giving these things out. Like, I never heard I heard like like what I want to say, urban legends of things that happen. It's like, oh, I know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that this happened to. It's like yeah, and there's just like these horror stories, these like Halloween stories that you tell kids, and it's like, yeah, I don't think anything like that happened. There was there is some weird things that have taken place that were in the news and stuff, like weird people giving out strange things, but um yeah, anyway, very rarely it happens. So, I mean, because people don't want to go to jail over, stupid things like this. But all right, number 3, Dutch family found living hidden in basement for almost a decade to prepare for the world to end. So, I mean, this is like a plot twist straight out of some weird dystopian novel or something. But this Dutch family decided that the best way to greet the apocalypse wasn't with a bang, but with a subterranean hideout. The story unfolded in a quiet village of Roynervold, where authorities stumbled upon a family so convinced of the world's end that they had taken to living in a farmhouse basement for nearly a decade unnoticed. So the plot was revealed when one of the siblings, somewhere aged between 18 to 25, escaped from their underground residence, not to go to the police station, mind you, but to go to the local pub, because that's so much more important, and ordered 5 beers, no less. So as he was drinking his beers, he he started talking about how he was living in a basement for years, and the local bartender, I'm sure he was, probably accustomed to hearing odd tales or whatever, but something just didn't settle right and decided to call the police. So upon arrival, the police found a scene that literally could have been part of some survivalist fantasy or something, some fantasy book. A 58-year-old man, didn't really say his name, by the way, who wasn't the father, which is even more weird. He was like, I guess, a tenant of the farm. Like, he took care of the farmhouse that they were living on, but he was arrested for not cooperating with the investigation. The man, due to this, like his doomsday predictions, because he just kept telling him the world was going to end, led this like group of whatever they were, so they were like, the children seems to be related to each other, but they weren't related to the guy. Somehow convinced them to live a life of seclusion, complete with a vegetable garden and a hidden staircase to their underground abode. I mean, can you imagine that? It's like Harry Potter or something. The family's existence was so off the grid that they weren't even registered with local authorities. So imagine the surprise of the neighbors, who thought their only companion was this old man who, just liked his privacy. So the siblings, who lived most of their young adult lives in this basement, were under the impression that they might be the last humans on Earth. I mean, it kind of reminds me of this South Park episode where Cartman convinces I can't remember the kids, the blonde kid hair, not part of the Forest South group kids, but their friend. Yeah. He convinces them that the world is going to end, and because he wants to go to it's like Eric's birthday or something, or Stan's birthday, and he wanted to go somewhere, and they were going to take this other kid. So he convinced him that was the end of the world and like threw him down there or whatever. It kind of reminds me of this. But anyway, this whole incident stirred like a massive amount of commotion in the whole entire town and even in the area. It was like a media frenzy, and all this gossip just like spread like wildfire about this family and what they were doing and everything else. They were taken, the kids, or now they're like adults, I guess you could say. They were taken to some kind of secure location. But it's kind of weird because it makes you wonder if they even saw daylight. like he wouldn't even let them leave at all, and he kept saying that everything was like destroyed above, and it was just super weird. But as the investigation continued, the world was left pondering the lengths to which people might go to escape or prepare for themselves for the end of days. Meanwhile, this does serve as a reminder to everyone out there: don't go to extremes when planning for the apocalypse. Perhaps it's better to keep one foot in reality, even if you are planning for the end of it, which we may see in our lifetime. But that doesn't mean to, go lock yourself in a bunker for years on end. That's not the way to do it. So
That'd be so boring too. You're just waiting for the end of the world. You're not like helping other people, helping humanity, helping yourself, doing
I know.
anything fun at all.
Yeah, I can't even fathom this, But if he's like, this dude is convincing these kids when they're really super young, like, hey, the world is coming to an end. Like, I need to help you. You need to do this. You need to do that. Then it's like, yeah, but it's just so funny. The one kid escaped, and then, he just goes to a local pub and orders beers. It's just so funny. It's like, I mean, to him, he probably didn't think he was escaping, though. He probably was just like, oh my gosh, like maybe the apocalypse is over and everything's okay. Maybe that's what he was talking about. And then the bartender's just like, what the heck is going on? So anyway, it's really funny. Someone said, I'm surprised the IRS didn't come after them. Well, this was in the Netherlands, so there's no IRS there, but yeah, very strange anyway. All right, moving on to number 2. This is about a supposed real life encounter with Dogman. And this happened in Boise, Idaho. And this is what the person, he wrote a post explaining what happened to him. And he says, I live in the woods north of Boise. Living in the woods, weird things happen sometimes, but I usually explain it by the paranoia of being alone out here. But in the last couple of years, things have gotten a little weird. My neighbor, about a half mile away, had all his chickens slaughtered in the night. Strangely, his guard dogs didn't even try to fight off whatever did it. I had my fences pushed over, gates bent at the hinges, strange, almost dog-like prints in the drainage by the creek on the edge of my property, scratch marks down my walls on my own chicken coop from 8 feet up. So in other words, there was these scratch marks 8 feet high. Then he goes on to say, just the other night, I saw what I swear looked just like a bear standing up with ears like a wolf across the pasture by my coop and barn. I ran out after it, grabbing my rifle to scare it off, and for the first time ever, my dog wouldn't leave the house. He is fearless, but that night he just looked out there with his hair up and wouldn't budge. I got chills like I've never felt before looking out into the dark. It was probably just a bear on its hind legs and a bad scent from my dog, but it sure did look and move funny and seem too tall. I'm sure it's just all my imagination getting away from me, but I've been on this land for a long time and never seen or heard anything about this till only in the last year or so. So yeah, that definitely sounds like it's a some kind of weird cryptid encounter, because if it was a bear, your dog would just probably be barking like normal, even though it might be kind of scared of a bear. But I mean, these are very, very common experiences where dogs will just start whimpering for no reason, and they just like are become totally, totally scared. And it's like a fear that you can't even describe. So this does make sense, but I've never really owned, like, well, I guess I have owned a dog, but there's no bears around. So when I was living in Wisconsin with my family, but I was really, really young. we had a dog there. I don't really remember, but I'm curious. I mean, if you guys live, more north where there are bears and stuff, I mean, I don't really think dogs freak out. I have friends that have dogs, in like, the rural area of like upstate New York and things like that, where there are bears and they have dogs there specifically to bark at the bears when they come near to make sure that the bears don't come to the house. So I can't imagine that a dog would like get that scared of a bear, even if it was kind of big. I would think it would just kind of bark at it and probably like hide a little bit or bark from it in the house. So something like this is very strange. And I'm seeing more of these reports, like in Point Pleasant, Virginia, the same thing was happening there with dogs, that they were just like freaking out when there were these Mothman sightings, like the peak of it. A lot of dogs were very, very, very scared. People were reporting that. So very strange. All right. Now something way more positive here. We're going to be talking about the miracle of the sun. So this is probably one of the most, I think by now a lot of people know the story. I knew about it. I just didn't really know all the details. So it was kind of exciting for me to really jump into this and get more of like the detailed information on this one. So this happened in Fatima, Portugal, and which the word Fatima is now kind of goes along with Virgin Mary and the miracle of the sun. Synonymous is what I was trying to say. Synonymous with the Virgin Mary, and also now with this event with the miracle of the sun. So, by 1917, the world was going through a lot of major shifts back then. The First World War started. People were dying from diseases. The Industrial Revolution was also in full swing. People were, slowly kind of stepping further and further away from God. I think kind of the thinking at the time was that God was no longer relevant, especially during this Industrial Revolution. I mean, it's kind of like the tech industry today, it's like science was getting more mainstream. All these new things were coming out, but all that was about to change. On May 13th, 1917, 3 young children were tending sheep when suddenly, in broad daylight, a massive flash came from the sky, almost like lightning. That's literally a photo of the 3 kids in real life. Lucia, Francisco, and Janita. So all of a sudden, they see this flash almost like lightning, and then it was followed by a second bright flash. And as they looked up, they saw a woman emitting a pure white light that was brighter than the sun and more clear than crystal while sparkling in the sky. So it's like this woman just appeared. She was just like, shimmering with this light. She told the children to come to the same location once a month at the same time and place. She said to them that she would reveal who she is in October. So the children didn't know if they should tell their parents or not, but I think it was Lucia who was just too excited about it and began to tell everyone. And she began telling her family, and in return, her family started telling everyone else. Soon word spread around and everyone in the town knew, but the difference is not many people believed their story. So the children did what she said, and they appeared. They kept going to the same place, and she did appear to them 5 more times, going through each month until October. So during each of these visitations, she reportedly gave the children 3 secrets, and she said this to them. She said, quote, I want you to tell that I want to tell you that a chapel is to be built here in my honor. Lindsay, sorry, I don't see the photos if you're showing them. There you go. Okay. This is what she said. She said, I want to tell you that a chapel is to be built here in my honor. I am the Lady of the Rosary. Continue always to pray to the Rosary every day. The war is going to end, and the soldiers will soon return to their homes. She also urged them to pray for world peace and emphasized the necessity of devotions to her and for like their souls to be saved and whatnot. So Mother Mary saw the children having doubts because, at this point she told them that she was Mother Mary or, Lady of the Rosary. That's how she said it. So Mother Mary saw the children were having doubts that, basically no one would believe them. So she told the children that God would perform a miracle on October 13th so that all the people would believe their story, which was, well, not only believe that the story was true, but know that they're telling the truth. So when they returned back to the town, they were each questioned, but all of their stories matched so well that no one really knew what to think at this point. All the people could do was basically just wait and see if a miracle would happen. So on that day, on October 13th, there was an estimated crowd of nearly 70,000 people. This is a real photo of the event because it was, it was publicized so much that people were waiting for this. So literally 70,000 people showed up waiting for this miracle to happen. But very soon, a massive storm came through. And it even struck more doubt in people, thinking like, okay, there's no way this is going to happen now. The storm is here, like this is kind of crazy. So the children were with Mother Mary as all the people gathered in the area, and Mother Mary appeared to them on this day. One of the children explained that it was Lucia again, explained that Mother Mary got very sad and said to them, quote, "Do not offend the Lord God anymore, because he is already so much offended." The children said that Mary opened her hands and the sun's light started to reflect from the sky, like in her hands. And then she began to ascend in the sky. And as she started to ascend, they said the storm clouds started to break away. And then all of a sudden, the sun was there. But instead of the sun, they described it as a massive spiral in the sky that was bigger than the sun, but not quite as bright as the sun. Now, this is an artist rendition. Lindsay, help me here. I'm sorry. Yes, sorry.
Artist rendition.
Rendition. Man, I don't know why I can't say that word sometimes. Okay. Yeah. Artist's concept of what it looked like that day. They also reported seeing multiple colors radiating from the spiral sun that then just like filled the entire landscape in the area. Now, other sources, they also kind of called this event miraculous solar phenomenon. At this point, so what happened was this great spiral thing appeared in the sky, and then it seemed to almost fall towards Earth. And they said, like how the witnesses described it, as it was kind of falling towards Earth, it then kind of started dancing in the sky, like in a zigzag fashion. So it's like kind of falling, it's going like zigzagging around, and then it just kind of goes back up, and then it becomes the sun in the sky, and it just stays in the sky. So then it was, there was a storm there. So it was raining, people were cold and wet. But after witnessing this miracle, everyone said their clothes became completely dry. One person described it as if walking out of the cleaners, like you're just totally dry, and they were no longer cold. And this was all being reported in that newspaper that Lindsay just pulled up. Even over 20 miles away, people reported seeing this spectacular event in the sky. The event was so by 1930. This went around worldwide. Newspapers were reporting on this. Then everyone was hearing about it. By 1930, the Catholic Church declared it supernatural character, and a shrine was built in the area of Fatima, and which has now been attended by thousands and thousands of people actually making the pilgrimage out to that area just to see the shrine and visit the whole land where all this took place on, and along with the church that they promised to build. I don't know if it's still there, but they definitely built that church. It probably is still there. I was trying to see if it was there, but I'm sure it is. So, and this photo, Lindsay, can you pull up this? This is the actual photo. So the problem is the cameras back then, everything would be so blown out in the sky that's why you're not really seeing any photos with this. This is the only one that I could find. And it is a real photo, and it was of this event, and it doesn't look like much in today's world, but as you can see, it looks very different than just being a sun. So it is really cool, to say the least. But I think, like, seeing those photos of like all those people there for that event, it's just kind of mind blowing, I mean, this really fundamentally changed religion for a long time, and spirituality and belief and everything else. So I really think it's just such a powerful experience for these, especially for these kids, and as they grew up, they started telling their own stories and books about, like, this whole event, and, their stories all matched. No one ever came back and was like, oh yeah, we just made that up, and it was like, no, throughout the rest of the time, I mean, it was like it changed their lives, fundamentally changed their lives, seeing something like that. So I just think it's just really, really amazing. So it's just something I think that needed to happen during that time, and it stayed with a lot of people for a very, very long time. So, well, yeah. But even like doctors or scientists, in the scientific world, they even have a hard time. They call it the sun dog. They're like, oh, they just witnessed a sun dog. Well, even if they did witness just a sun dog, they already knew when it was going to take place. So that right there could be a miracle in itself, But yeah, it's pretty amazing. Somebody, Photo Pony, is asking, what would you do if you met Blessed Mother? That's a loaded question. I mean, I feel like I already had my own angelic experience, and it would probably be very similar to what these kids experienced. And all I can tell you is, like, you just don't have any thoughts. You just want to cry, and you just want to leave this world. Like, okay, I'm ready. I'm so ready. Like, let's go. Let's leave now, And it's like, no, it's not time for you to leave yet. You're just here to experience this and to share with others what you are experiencing. And so that's my story. But it definitely changes you. It changes you at the core. It changes you fundamentally. You start thinking about everything in a different way, your whole life, what you're meant to do, who you are, why you're doing what you're doing. You think about things that you're doing wrong and wanting to change, and all of that. And I think it's a big difference when, people ask me, like, well, how do you know if there's, like, the difference between a positive being and, like, a negative being that comes to you? And I think the main difference is with the positive beings, there's just no question. You just want to, like, break down and cry, because you're just like, wow, I really need to do better. I need to change myself and become a better person and everything else. So that's what I would say to that. But yeah. These experiences are life. I mean, they're completely life changing at the core, and that's what in some aspects, I think the same thing with near death experiences. So these experiences and near death experiences are basically one and the same. So I think that's really cool to when people have these experiences, that we kind of separate them, because, like, I didn't have a near death experience, but I had this experience, which to me is like having a near death experience. So. Really amazing, though, these things, and it really shows me there's no longer, for me, it's not a belief in God anymore, or belief in the divine. It's not like I believe in this. It's like I know that it exists. Like, no one, not a single person is going to convince me otherwise. It's like my root is so strong with that. that, yeah, no one's going to take that away from me. Like, you're not going to convince me one way or the other in any shape or form, because it's like, I know what I experienced was real. So, but yeah, I just thought that was a good one to end. And I hope you guys all have a great rest of the night and a great week. And we'll see you for Friday Night Live. All right. Take care, everyone. And I'll see you out on the edge.